Alright, thanks so much for allowing me to speak. So I'm Ferry pratama, a student of high school in CIREBON, and I'm the first speaker of the affirmative team with the motion this House would abolish primary school and middle school grades that group the children based on age, instead to group them by the competency and intelligence. So I will define the motion and then I will give some background and also my argument, and then the mechanism and conclusion as a closure. So I will limit this motion in Indonesia, and then I will define the word group here to put the children in a class. As we know, now we put the children in a class by an age and not by the competency. So this motion means to change this method to group them by the competency and intelligence. And competency here means to the ability to do something, and then the intelligence here means to ability to acquire some knowledge for the student. And this whole motion means to open our mind to change this, open our mind to change this method and what would happen if we group the children by an ability and competency. So I believe this motion become because teacher feel exhausted for teaching children with a different skill. Why? Because sometimes learning activities disrupt by the student that haven't got the subject matters that we teach. So let's say in learning activities, there's some student understand the subject and some student need more time, not more time to get the subject. How? Because they are in a different, they have a different competency and intelligence. So this is really confusing for teacher because teacher might teach them over and over, and sometimes it is really ineffective because they would sometimes wouldn't get the target, and then huge different score for an exam and even report score is really one of the biggest reason why this motion become. Why? Because when we group children based on age, there's when the exam starting, there's always a huge different score for some student and another student. Why? Because they have a different competencies as before. So the social gap would be, let's say, brings the social gap around the student and even the parents, and that's absolutely worse. So this motion means to minimize that two action. So in my argument, by applying this motion to change the grouping children by by an age to by the competency, it will brings some effectiveness of teaching and learning method. All right, from teaching, teacher can decrease the possibility of remedial and for the student. So when we group the children based on competency and intelligence, they know what to do. They understand what they learned. So the possibility of remedial would be absolutely decreased. And even if they are, or there will be a remedial, it's probably a really minimum. And also, teacher can be focused on teaching about the subject that already fit in to the student. Why? Because when we group a student by the competency and intelligence, as I said before, they know what they have to learn and they understand completely what they studying for. So teacher can obviously easily to hit the target of learning of education. So the learning activities would go really smoothly, and also teacher would typically realize the individual student errors and develop some significant strategy to fix the errors. And then for the learning POV, so there will be a fewer assignment to allow students to focus on areas of needs, as we know that assignment is a really big deals for student. So by grouping them with a competency, they will only focus on what they have to learn, and they would let's say they would the assignment is not really a big deal. They will focus on exploring and improving their competency and intelligence, and then the subject learning would flow smoothly without any disruption by remedial or even student errors. As I said before, the remedial would be decreased, and the subject learning would be flow smoothly, and it is always would be receiving some student attention, so student could put really great attention to teachers, so they would understand the subject clearly. And then the second argument is it would minimize a social gap. Why? So as we know that in by grouping them by the age, there's some, let's say, expert student, and how could this be? How could they have some expert student? So let's say they when they group by age, they have the different skill, and some student that learn that subject faster, they already understand, they would be considered as a expert in that subject, and another student feel some social gap with that student, and that's absolutely worse. And then also by applying some grouping them by competency and intelligence, it will reducing social pressure. Age-based grouping can create some social pressure. Why? Because students are often judged based on whatever they're ahead for and whatever behind their peer. So by grouping them by an ability, it is would be decreased obviously, because they would focus on their ab- uh, individuals development. And then age-based grouping sometimes contribute to bullying and social exclusion. Why? Because students are only make friends with the same age. With a different age, probably they not really interested. So it is possible for them to do some bullying with a different age. So in the method, this motion is possibly to apply in Indonesia. We just have to put the task first as the task first to student. Let's say such a psychotest. It will calculating the IQ and the patient and even the critical thinking. So student know what they class is. They know how much their IQ, what's their patient, and how could they do the critical thinking. And in conclusion, we have to take this action to be realized, because this method got a really big potential to improve Indonesian education. It will change anything from environment, standard, and even quality of education. And it is also beneficial for future. So we would have a great competence people in this country. So thank you very much for having me today.